The first time Vivian Blackwood told me to get off my own land, she said it with a smile so polished it almost made the words sound reasonable. Almost. She stood there in expensive boots on mud my grandfather had worked half his life to tame, pointed at me like I was the trespasser, and in that moment I understood something ugly about power. Some people don't just want control, they want the pleasure of humiliating you with it. I'm Ezra Thompson, 52, third-generation owner of 40 acres outside Millbrook Springs, Colorado. My grandfather bought this ranch in 1952. After my wife Sarah died in 2021, I promised I'd hold on to this place because this land was family history, my daughter's future, and the one thing grief hadn't taken from me. Then Pinnacle Heights went up on the ridge in 2020 luxury homes, and people who liked the country, as long as it stayed decorative. Vivian Blackwood became their queen fast. Former planning official from Denver, perfect hair, silver Escalade. First, she filed noise complaints about my roosters. Then she dug up some ancient setback ordinance and declared my grandfather's old barn non-compliant. Then came fines, lawyer letters, threats, and legal bills that started eating my girls' college money alive. So when Vivian came to my door acting friendly, I should have known a snake was getting ready to shake hands. She said HOA residents were renovating and needed temporary storage for furniture and construction materials. The HOA wanted to lease 5 acres from me for $800 a month. It wasn't much, but I was tired, cornered, and just desperate enough to sign. Within a month, there were 15 containers. They didn't look like storage. They looked like an occupation. Rusted steel boxes scattered across my pasture, many modified with vents, power hookups, and climate control units. Trucks rolled in after midnight. Guards appeared. And when I objected, Vivian pointed to a clause buried in the contract that granted the HOA exclusive access to the leased area for security purposes. Security for what? Nobody moves a couch at 2 in the morning. That question started clawing at me, especially after my power bill doubled. I traced the load and found an illegal tap into my main feed. That wasn't patio furniture. That was an operation. So I stopped arguing and started documenting. Trail cameras in birdhouses, motion sensors in fence posts. If Vivian wanted to hide behind paperwork, I was going to answer with timestamps. And once I started watching, the lie cracked open. Workers in hazmat suits unloaded industrial drums. Labels read corrosive solvents, asbestos, debris, lead paint waste. Not furniture, not renovation leftovers. Hazardous material. I sat in my kitchen that night staring at those containers and realized I wasn't in an HOA dispute anymore. I was living beside a crime scene with my family name on the deed. So I got methodical. Every plate number, every delivery time, every company logo. And then the first big twist landed. The trucks making the late night drops belonged to Mountain Peak Demolition LLC, a company specializing in hazardous material removal. The owner was Robert Blackwood, Vivian's husband. That's when the whole thing snapped into focus. Homeowners were paying for proper disposal. The Blackwoods were dumping the waste on my ranch for free and pocketing the difference. Meanwhile, Vivian kept tightening the screws. She cut the rent with fake administrative fees fenced off. Half my pasture had guards question me on my own land and told neighbors I was unstable. Emma came home crying after somebody called me the garbage man. My business started losing jobs too. She wasn't just using my land, she was trying to ruin my name badly enough that nobody would believe me if I spoke. So I stayed quiet and kept building the case. Then came the second twist. One night, my audio rig caught Vivian whispering, "The EPA inspection is Thursday. Move 12 through 15 before Wednesday night." She wasn't guessing. She knew. I traced the number she'd called to Marcus Webb, a deputy environmental inspector with the state. Her cousin. That explained why she'd been acting untouchable. She didn't just have lawyers. She had inside warning on inspections. That was when I stopped thinking local. An old Army buddy of mine, Jake Morrison, worked EPA criminal investigations in Denver. I gave him footage, audio, soil samples, forged paperwork, truck records, utility theft. Once he saw it, he told me I wasn't describing an HOA fight. I was describing a federal case. By then, Vivian had gotten desperate. Child Protective Services showed up after anonymous complaints. Somebody cut my cattle fence. Then one of the private guards asked to meet me at a truck stop outside town. His name was Marcus Reed, ex-military straight shooter. Vivian hadn't paid his security company in months, and he was done protecting her. He brought me shift logs that matched my footage, then gave me the piece that changed everything. Vivian planned to plant stolen HOA property in my barn the night before a Labor Day event, then have me arrested in front of county officials and the press. That's when I knew she was scared. A few days later, her lawyer showed up in my kitchen with cash offers. Scholarships for my girls, even a house in another state. He tried to sell exile like it was mercy. I told him I'd think about it. What I was really thinking was this: when crooked people start offering comfort, it's because they can hear consequences getting closer. Then nature did what the local system wouldn't. Late September brought the worst storm we'd had in years. The sky turned green, black hail hammered the containers like gunfire, and one of the modified units, number 4, split open. I stepped out there with a flashlight and felt like I'd walked into the inside of somebody's sin. Asbestos insulation blowing across my pasture. Lead paint chips in the mud. Chemical drums cracked open, bleeding rainbow slicks into the grass. Forged disposal papers pasted to the fence by rain. And the smell solvents rot burnt plastic. Then I heard Vivian. She was out there in a designer raincoat soaked through mascara, running screaming at workers to clean it up before sunrise. That was all I needed. I stayed hidden, recorded everything, caught her ordering the concealment, caught her panicked call asking her cousin to delay inspection, and before dawn I uploaded every file I had to secure servers and federal contacts. By morning I wasn't a desperate rancher with suspicions. I was a witness with a case. Jake moved fast. So did the federal prosecutor he brought in, Sarah Smith. She said the evidence supported environmental crimes, fraud, conspiracy, obstruction, maybe even racketeering. Asset seizure too. And then because arrogance makes people stupid, Vivian still held her Labor Day showcase. More than 200 people showed up, county commissioners, investors, local media, state officials. Vivian stood in a white suit with a microphone, smiling in front of poisoned steel like she was opening a school wing. Then her cousin stepped forward with a warrant meant for me. "Ezra Thompson, you're under arrest for theft of HOA property." I looked him in the eye and asked if he wanted to explain the evidence planted in my barn the night before. Then I played the footage. The crowd went silent. Jake stepped out and showed his badge. Other federal agents followed. Sarah Smith walked forward calm as winter. Bolt cutters came out. The lock on container 4 snapped. Then the doors swung open. The people in front physically recoiled from the smell. Inside was everything I'd been proving for a year and a half: asbestos, solvents, toxic debris, forged paperwork waste from demolition jobs across multiple counties. No more polished language, no more HOA newsletters, just criminal evidence sitting in daylight. Vivian unraveled fast. She blamed me, contractors, the storm, probably gravity. If somebody had given her another minute, it didn't matter. Her own voice on my recordings buried her. So did Robert's company records. So did the inspection warnings, the bribery attempt, the fake arrest setup, the utility theft, the contaminated soil. They cuffed her right there. They cuffed Robert too. Her cousin lost his badge in front of half the county. Bank accounts froze, trucks got seized, properties got flagged. Pinnacle Heights stopped feeling like a luxury development and started feeling like an evidence locker with landscaping. And I'll be honest, after 18 months of being treated like the villain on my own, land hearing those handcuffs click felt better than church bells. 6 months later, the chemical smell is gone. Federal crews stripped contaminated soil, tested groundwater, restored the pasture, and made the land safe again. My cattle graze there now. My business recovered, then grew. Vivian pled guilty. Robert did too. Prison finally gave them something they'd never respected before: limits. The government seized enough of their assets to cover cleanup and long-term monitoring. Part of the whistleblower money went into a scholarship fund in Sarah's name for rural kids studying environmental science. That felt right. Sarah always believed the best answer to ugliness wasn't just surviving it. It was leaving something decent behind where somebody else tried to leave damage. And that's the lesson I didn't understand until all of this was over. People think power is volume, money, threats, official letterhead, loud voices, and expensive clothes. But a lot of the time, real power is quieter than that. It's patience. It's records. It's knowing when not to swing. Greedy people usually build the trap themselves if you stop helping them hide it. Vivian thought desperation would make me easy to control. What she never understood is that there's a kind of man you should be very careful about, cornering a man with grief behind him, kids in front of him, and something sacred under his boots. Now I'm back on that porch most mornings, coffee in hand, listening to cattle move through clean Colorado air, watching sunrise hit land my grandfather would still recognize. Sometimes I look toward that pasture and think about how evil rarely arrives wearing horns. Most of the time it shows up with paperwork, polished language, and a convenient offer when you're tired enough to believe it. So here's what I want to know from you. If somebody with money connections and a title started taking your property piece by piece, how long would you stay patient before you struck back? And when does restraint stop being virtue and start becoming revenge? Drop your take in the comments, and if you've ever dealt with an HOA bully, a corrupt official, or anybody who mistook your kindness for weakness, tell that story too. I want to hear where you draw the line between justice and payback.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.